Oh,
I
that's the
haven't seen
wrong
Spy
episode.
Kids in
Yeah,
ages.
we were talking about Kyle hasn't seen them before. I want to watch them with
Oh,
him.
we got to watch them.
But
I
before
haven't
we
seen them in
watch
so.
Spy Kids, we have to
Uh-huh.
watch more Clone Wars. And before we watch
True.
more Clone Wars, we've already watched some, and we're going to talk about it today. So, hello, everyone.
Whoa! What
Welcome.
a transition.
I know, I'm the king of transitions, except for when I don't.
I see. Very
Well,
logical.
on
I
the
thought that was
subject
smooth
of before,
myself.
but before we get into rookies, which is the episode we're covering, I want to start by talking about Kyle and I. We watched a little thing over the weekend,
We
and
did?
yeah, we watched
Oh
the
yeah!
Star Wars Clone Wars because
Volume
Yeah!
1.
while I
Volume 1.
was getting the DVD copies for the Clone Wars. I saw this on Amazon. Yes, I saw it on Amazon, and Volume One was like $10. So I was like, let's grab it. And so we watched it. And I thought, let's talk about it because interesting comparisons between Clone Wars and the Clone Wars, and you can definitely see a lot of inspiration that was drawn. So I feel like that's kind of worth talking about. So I've listed out some points that we can go through if we can't just off the cuff have this conversation. So I'm just gonna direct this at you guys. What are your thoughts on Clone Wars?
Daniel, you go first.
You know what? Bet. I absolutely love 2D Clone Wars. It was my whole childhood. I let me put this in perspective. When you said that you had seen it, I dug out my through my VHS tapes and found where my mom had bootleg recorded this frickin' the frickin' episode of Clone
Man,
Wars.
I remember those days when you had to record stuff on VHS tapes.
So
Man.
my mom, she recorded the entire like first half of Clone Wars from, like the little intro bit to where, there's Grievous and he's fighting Kiadi. That whole bit is recorded on a VHS tape. I'm looking at it right now. Thing is that VHS tape, because it's a bootleg, whatever, we recorded over all of these commercials, and also parts of it were it wasn't all in one go. It wasn't like from chapter 1 to chapter 20 whatever. 20, I think it's chapter 20. In between sections, there were episodes of Teen Titans,
Oh
another one
Oh,
of my
man.
no
favorite
way.
shows.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we also have another VHS of Teen Titans, but that's like an official one. But so I'm watching this like 3.5 hour VHS tape of Clone Wars while also watching all these really old commercials that had been like that like stuck in my brain for ages and I didn't know where they came from, and I'm like, "Oh, I remember this." And then I'm
Dude,
also
the tiger
watching
poster.
not the tiger poster. Oh, and then there's also these episodes of Teen Titans. I was on a whole nostalgia trip. If nostalgia was a drug, I was huffing it hard yesterday. That was glorious. So, I really like it. In TLDR, I really like it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
definitely.
awesome. That's awesome.
Uh,
Um, to bounce off of Daniel, I also quite enjoy it. Now I never saw it. Daniel watched this apparently when he was younger. I never saw this whenever it came out. I didn't even know this existed until I was on the internet and I could see clips of it. Um, and I never watched the whole thing in its entirety until it came out on Disney Plus last year, and I still had Disney Plus, and I was able to watch the whole thing. Um, and I was like, wow, this is really good for, kind of connected the dots on all the scenes, like where they went up, because I had just seen like clips of the scenes, but it was like, oh wow, this is cool. I mean, it's not super cohesive, but I love the art style. I love the animation. I love a lot of what they were going for because it was kind of just Gendy Tartakovsky trying to figure out what the Clone Wars would have looked like based on what George Lucas essentially gave him. Um,
I will note that you said it perfectly, but I always mix up Tartakovsky and Tchaikovsky, and I know they're different people, and I mess up their names
so you
so
see, one of them is a fantastic animator who's known for great shows. Another one is like one of the world's greatest composers who is also a Russian. It's
In
all good.
indeed, two great artists of our time. Okay,
Yes.
continue. I'm sorry.
Um, yes, and I like I just like the interpretations. Now they're not perfect, I know that, but they're fun. They're fun. I like the action, like the kind of the overkill action it kind of gives to um Star Wars, and I enjoy a lot of things from that show. I wish they would have carried more over um to the Clone Wars, but it's different writers, different designers, different creators. It's just different visions, and they did carry some over, and I'm sure we might talk about that pretty briefly. But I like it overall. I think I very much enjoy it.
Nice.
Oh
Well, I
yeah,
guess that
uh,
leaves me. Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something?
just a little side note because I could never get enough of mentioning my favorite series of books, Republic Commando. Let's go. In chapter 3 it was when there's like the ARC troopers and they crash, and you know when they throw up that little orb and it like scans the city?
The spy droid, yeah,
Yeah, that little thing. That is in the books. That was first used in the books. I don't know if it was
cool.
first used in the books, but it was in the books. And I was reading earlier, and I was like, oh, it's the thing. I love that thing. Anyways, you Ryan, go.
I pretty much didn't even know that it existed as a kid. I guess I realized that it existed when I heard some people sometime talking about Clone Wars, and I was like, oh yeah, like the interesting show. It's coming out. Wow, Ahsoka, she's crazy. And then they're just like, what are you idiot? What a nerd! Not talking about the OG. And I was like,
You
oh man,
fool.
I'm a loser. But
Yes, you are.
Oh
yeah, I
jeez.
ended up watching it. Like I said, I found it and I was like, let's get it. And like a month later, I sat down with Kyle. We were just like, let's watch something. And we were just like, ooh, Clone Wars. Wait, no, not the Clone Wars. Let's watch Clone Wars. And so we sat down and we watched through it all. So
We didn't
I'm
watch through it
mainly
all.
well, we watched through Volume 1. That's like an hour of it.
Volume one, half of
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
this is a decent chunk.
The
Interesting
first half.
stuff. Yeah. I I guess we can just start talking about it because I mean a lot of it is just gonna be my impression as I'll be talking about it and comparing it to the Clone Wars. I think one thing that I really find interesting is seeing this was the original idea and this is the stuff that they took inspiration from when designing the characters, designing the worlds, even talking about different plot lines. Where I could see where a lot of inspiration was drawn from, and yeah, I just found that really interesting. They even used a lot of the voice actors from this and moved it
Mm.
to Clone Wars, and because
yes.
I think it's Count Dooku and
Obi-Wan,
Obi-Wan. I don't know if
Yoda.
yeah, Yoda. I was gonna say Mace Windu because he's on the cover, but they did not
He didn't
because he
talk.
didn't talk. Uh,
Yep.
so I guess
Uh
hmm,
I love that bit. I love a lot of bits
that's the
because they
only
were like,
thing that I had seen prior to watching this was that episode. I guess that like little 4 minute chunk of Mace Windu. I guess we could go on to talk about Clone Wars, but I feel like that would be better suited to talk about little bits and pieces here and there as we go throughout the series. Let's just jump into the episode, shall we?
whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got rookies. This is about a bunch of rookies.
It's our boys. It's Domino
Yeah.
Squad,
And I got
guys.
some things to
It's
say
weird to
about
think.
that. It'll be interesting.
It's really weird that this came out before they did Clone Cadets. Like they went
Hmm.
back and tried to give them a bit more character before they got to this
Well, I guess that is
like
something that we can
story.
talk about as far as pretty
Oh
much like
crap.
a lot of these episodes. Like the reason why it's so weirdly all the order in chronological order is so weird is because a lot of these episodes starting off are like, they allude to more happening in the universe, and then they just like decided we're gonna tell you what's happening, right? I mean, with
We're
King
gonna go back to
Katunko,
try and expand it more.
yeah, going back to Ambush with King Katunko, like they just decided to tell a story that led to Ambush, the Christophsis arc. That was the movie, right? They just had 2 episodes to lead into the movie, right?
Hmm.
I feel like that's kind of interesting, but I think this episode shows the problems with that kind of form of, I guess, recontextualizing your story. I think it's fine, but I've got some stuff to say.
Gotcha.
So let's just start. Title card. The best confidence builder is experience. What are our thoughts?
Hmm.
I really didn't think it mean anything. It's just like I said last week. It's or last episode. It's your your annual fortune cookie
Mm-hmm.
reading, and it's like, oh, well, not annual, your weekly fortune cookie reading, and it's like,
Annual. You
ah,
only.
And you only get these
you only get one
one a
fortune
year.
cookie a
If
year.
you're
I
if
guess
you're listening to the podcast and it's not 2028, you're wrong.
Of course. I don't know what you could possibly mean. Of course, it's 20.
man, I hope we actually get to 2028.
Yeah, no, the world's
I
gonna end by then. I don't know, man.
Yes, I thought you meant the podcast gets 2028. I was
No,
like, I don't think
the
we have
world.
enough episodes.
We start just like reviewing other random shows and then comparing it to Clone Wars. Yeah, today we're
Interesting,
gonna be
interesting.
reviewing the Twilight trilogy.
Oh,
I
for a
thought there
second, I
were
thought you were
four
gonna
of
say the
them.
Twilight Zone, and I was like, the Twilight Zone.
I thought there were 4 Twilight movies. Are there? I don't. Let's not talk about Twilight. We're talking about Star Wars. Daniel, get off this tangent.
Star Wars.
So
I'm sorry.
there's. Oh yeah. So we start with we see a Nibre Manta. He's flying on the base of the Rishi moon.
Whoa.
I was like, whoa, he's from the other thing. And I actually had to do a bit of a dive to see, like, does it make sense for, first off, this creature to be in this area, which apparently it does, and then also, does it make sense for the creature to be this small? Because he was way bigger in the last arc, and it does apparently. So neat. I don't know enough about the different creatures of Star Wars. But I also I've already skipped the announcement, like the beginning. I forget what they're called. The Yularen, him speaking. Um,
Oh my goodness.
he
How
says,
dare you skip him?
I know, I feel like a jerk, but it's okay. Well, I'll give him his time to shine now. He says, Clone forces rally. As the war escalates in the Outer Rim, the Jedi Knights are spread thinly across the galaxy. Many new clones are rushed into service to support their Jedi generals. Unfortunately, because of the relentless demands of battle, many young clones must join the struggle before their intensive training has been completed. These clones, manning a vital network of tracking stations, are all that stand between the Republic and invasion.
Done, done,
Dun,
done.
Oh man.
dun.
I think that as far as the world building goes, that's fine because I mean, clones are outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1, and Camino is forced to work overtime, so they've got to get deployed fast. But I mean,
Especially in like the more in the Senate episodes where we see they're just like, why don't we get more
we
clones? And they're
have 1,000,000 clones. Let's get 1 billion clones.
like, yes, like
I'll have
bro.
1,000,000
I don't know
clones,
why the
and
Republic turned
then
into.
another million
I
clones.
don't know why the Republic turned into Skeletor, but
Yeah, more clones.
I will have 1,000,000 battle droids,
What
And
about the
then
droid attack on the
another,
Wookiees?
and then another million battle
I
droids,
love that video so much. 5 Whoppers and
and
5
five more
more
whoppers.
Whoppers.
Man, we're gonna take a while to get through this episode.
Oh god,
That's
I'm
why we're continuing right now.
All right. Whoa, look
yeah.
at that. Look, that's the clone. It's crazy. Well, so we see our clones. They're introduced. It's crazy. They're listening to music. It's like, ooh, cool. They're listening to the Grand Army of the Republic broadcast.
My
Which
favorite
is
radio
like
station.
I think that's cool because it's like the old radio stations they would have had like um in World War II or Vietnam, right? You'd have the stations for the soldiers to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And this one goes out to the mud jumpers of wherever it says. I
The Mud
forgot.
Jumpers of I forget.
It's the planet from Solo.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. That was
I
that was
didn't
a
know that.
that was a reference in this Solo movie. They're like they're from the mud jumpers from this planet, and then that's the planet that they're on in
I
Solo.
saw
And they
Solo one time in the theater and thought to myself, yeah, I don't need to ever see that movie again. So
that's fair. I thought it
yeah,
was
I'll
okay.
have
I
to.
thought it was okay.
Anyways,
Yeah. Well,
we're
And I
not talking
know
about
Ryan's gonna
Solo.
beat me up for that later, but
what?
that's okay.
What are you talking about? I don't remember it. I don't know. I don't know anything about Solo. It's been so
No,
long.
It's okay.
it's been so.
It's okay.
Anyway.
It is forgettable, but it's okay when I've
Well,
seen it.
yeah,
Let's move on.
the
Let's move on.
clones.
The
Yeah, let's
clones,
move back
Clone
to the
Boys,
main topic. The clones. They're listening to the music, and there's
and they
I
have
do
more
find it.
pinup posters.
Yeah, I find it funny that the Grand Army of the Republic broadcast, and I know why because I listened to the extras. Apparently, they didn't have any assets to spare, or that they had to reuse assets in order to create this broadcast. So,
Of
I
course.
guess at some point there's like a droid that is the model that's used for the Grand Army of the Republic broadcast. They just reused it to this, but I find it really funny that this hologram seems to just perpetually dance for the clones, but I do find
Oh,
it neat that there's a broadcast specifically for entertainment for the
yes.
GAR.
So, another side tangent. Yeah, in Force Unleashed, when you go to the world, and in the MMO Star Wars: The Old Republic, when you go to Nar Shaddaa and you go into the casinos, there will just be tables of just like aliens dancing, and you're like, what?
Okay.
It,
Well, I
they're just
mean,
dancing always.
we we live in a society, and that's reflective of our society.
In oh yeah, and in Force Unleashed they dance the song that's like on in the background at all times is the song from Return of the Jedi. Laughing Neck.
Oh
Yes.
no!
Not
I
Jedi
love it.
Rock. Not Jedi Rock. Lapty Neck, the good one.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, but that's still funny.
It's pretty glorious. Anyways, continuing
All right.
clones!
Yes.
Clones!
Man, this is just a tangent episode. Well,
Uh,
so we're reintroduced to Domino Squad.
whoa!
It's like, whoa, hey,
Droid
they're
Base
from
Commander,
they're
though.
from well, if you're watching this from episode release order, this is our first time meeting them. But if you're watching this chronologically, this is like, man, it's them. I
Time
remember
number
them.
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah,
Heavy has a goatee, or not goatee, but he has a lot of stubble.
he does. He also has like a bit of a tattoo on like his behind his cheekbones, sort of things.
Indeed.
I
Interesting.
And
didn't notice that.
Fives has 5 tattooed on his face
He
now.
does. But
And he,
I will talk about some stuff. But yes, Heavy and Cut Up, they're arm wrestling, and Heavy wins, and he's just like, haha, who's next? Fives? And Echo, he's like, oh, what is he? Yeah, because
like,
he walks in with the what is it? It's like this thing. I don't know the name of it. It's like a techie notepad sort of thing. Uh, I don't know. I can't think of words right now. But Echo, he's just like, you should be looking at your scope, right? And he opens it up. He's like, what do you know? It's empty, just like the last 100 times I've looked at it. I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, that makes, I guess with what's going on, of course, they would have to spy or like be on observation duty. It just reminds me of what is it? The start of VeggieTales, Larry Boy and the Fib from Outer Space, I think. How
What?
they're just like
Oh,
it's
they're
just
at a
the different
computer.
vegetables that are at a
I'm
computer.
bored.
Yes, or the start of Monsters versus Aliens with the two guys that are
Yeah.
just like, what are we supposed to do? No one told us.
How do
The
I
whole reason we have this job is because we're not supposed to do anything.
how do I remember this?
Yeah, it's like weird callbacks, but I guess that's what it made me think of is that kind of a job. Um, but yeah, Echo, he's just like, I like the job because it gives me time to look at my stuff. And Heavy's just like, nah, we're supposed to be on the front lines. This is boring. We gotta do stuff.
Grr.
Yeah. But then the sergeant shows up, and they're just like, whoa, sergeant's on the front deck.
Sergeant 09er.
Yeah,
What a
oh niner, yeah. That was his name. I definitely remember that.
It's yeah. Okay. One thing I will mention: there's another clone here who is not part of Domino Squad, and he has a name in the novelization of the episode,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't find the book anywhere. Like I was looking in my bookshelf earlier, and I can't find it. But I know he has a name,
I
and I
looked
know
it
it
up,
sounds
and I
really
don't
dumb.
remember the name. I may have written it down, but I don't remember. So, here's my question first off, because I'm uploading an image to you. I took a screenshot. Can you tell me who is who?
Ugh.
You can do it, Daniel.
From this from this shot right here,
From this shot? Because this is all 7 people that are on this base.
the guy holding his helmet, I think, is 09er.
Yep, that's
Other
Sarge.
than other than that, I have no idea.
I had to look this up and really like pay attention to the scene. But the two next to them, to Sarge's left, are Heavy and then Cut Up. And
Okay.
then the guy closest to the camera, that's Echo. And then the guy on the left, not farthest left, but it's like the next person right to Sarge is, I believe that's Fives. Droid bait is never shown. Like you
Yeah,
never
droid
know
bait's
who
not
it
in here.
is, and you never know who the other guy is. And I remember I do write down his name. I just don't. We'll figure it out later.
We'll figure it out
But
in a moment.
yeah, that was just really frustrating. That it's like, man, this is the next chronological episode of Domino Squad, and I don't know who is who unless I'm really paying attention. And even then, I can't figure out who's who.
Well, they make it pretty easy for us soon. Uh,
Do they?
yeah, they do. They give Heavy a machine gun. They give Echo his handprint. And then there's Fives. Uh,
And then there's Fives.
Well, I guess
and then
the
there's Fives.
the reason why I find this to be a bit of a problem, and we've talked about it a bit, because Daniel, you said that clones recognize each other through their voice. I
Yes.
guess I just have to headcanon that even though D. Bradley Baker voices all the clones, in reality they would have different voices because even Cut Up doesn't have much of an accent in this episode, right?
Yeah. No,
Like
it's
I
far more
listened to a
pronounced than
compilation
that.
of all of Cut Up's voice lines between this episode and also Clone Cadets, and I realized he doesn't have much of an accent. And
Yeah,
and
not
I'm
in the
not gonna
book.
fault Steve Bradley Baker for he probably doesn't naturally have that accent, so he doesn't probably he's not used to it. He probably doesn't use it very much. So I'm not gonna fault him for that. But at the same time, like for these characters, it's just they just would confuse each other in reality because they not only do they look the same, they sound the same. They're regarded as shinies, so it's like the only one that I can really distinguish would be Cut Up, just based on his voice, and even then, it's
Mhm.
difficult.
Yeah. Um, one way here's one thing. First of all, in Republic Commando, in the video game, all of the different commandos have different voice actors, so you can really
Hmm. Okay.
that's how you're supposed to like tell them apart,
Mm-hmm.
because like in the game when you're like on comms and if you don't have your subtitles on and like one of your guys says like over here Sarge I need help, and you're like oh Scorch said that because that's his voice, and you go over to where he is on your scope, like on your radar, you go over to his marker. And in there's one other thing I was gonna say, I don't remember. uh Crap, hold on. If I remember I'll speak up, but you yeah continue.
Well, I guess one thing I do just want to specify, I'm not gonna call this a major flaw of the show because I mean I understand this is like a 130 episode long show, like with only one voice actor for all of the clones or for almost all the clones. So it's like that's fine. I'm not going to fault him for not being able to portray the clones properly. But I mean, I just feel like if this
Hmm.
is what would be considered a proper portrayal, then there are some problems here.
Okay, I remember the other thing I was gonna say. In Bad Batch, even not even like in just in their show, but like in their episodes, all of the different members of the Bad Batch have very distinct voices.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'll probably mention that again when we get to season 7.
That'll definitely be something that we talk about. Um, but yeah, we'll move on. The sergeant he appears and he's made it very clear that this base is super important in securing the safety of Camino. He says if an enemy were to get past the base, they could start a siege on Camino, basically. And he also states that there are 2 officers on the way to inspect the base, and the sergeant wants everything squared away. And honestly, like, I know Kyle hasn't seen it, but this just reminds me of the Empire during the Aldani episodes of Andor.
Mm.
Because,
Mm-hmm.
like, they have a guy coming and, I forget, in that they're doing a heist to steal all the credits so that they could possibly fund the beginning of the rebels, and the guy that's kind of really helping out with the heist is an ex-imperial officer, and he's posing as an imperial officer on this base in Aldani, so that
Mm-hmm.
like it it's a really good like that's honestly I feel like Andor is possibly the best Disney Star Wars content that they've made.
Mm-hmm.
It's really well done as far as a story is told. Like I'd recommend go see it because me explaining it won't do it justice.
Yeah, that section specifically was also that was very
I
good.
loved that section. Um, but yeah, we'll move on because we've already we're a half hour into this and we've already engaged in like a dozen tangents.
That's
And
why
we've
I'm not talking at the moment.
Well,
fair enough.
we cut to Anakin and Obi-Wan. They're on a Venator, and Obi-Wan he's like, Anakin, you still your post? You haven't been sleeping. And Anakin is just like, I'll sleep after we find Grievous.
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Um,
Basically,
sure, yes,
because he won't find Grievous until Revenge of the Sith.
yes.
He will
But
never meet Grievous until then, and
that's true.
not, 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 not before.
Not before. Maybe after, but not before.
He'll engage in ship combat maybe once or twice.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Anakin, he's just like, man, I'm tired, but gotta find Grievous. He was spotted in the Balmora system weeks ago. So
That's where you were.
that's where they were, I know. I like their way of
Oh,
connecting the plot lines, and also they said weeks ago, so it's been a little while, right?
right.
I like that
Yeah.
that's something that they did. That's pretty cool. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, transmission from Commander Cody is there, and he's like, "Whoa, hey guys, I'm leading the inspections. This is crazy." And he says they're tracking, or he reports that the tracking station at Pastille is fully operational, and that he and Rex will be going to the outpost in the Rishi system next. So I guess as far as this scene is concerned, because that's pretty much the end of the scene, Anakin is relentlessly trying to track down Grievous to the point where he's losing sleep. Also, Cody and Rex are performing the inspections. Not much else, but I mean, I think that's fine for the pacing of the episode. I think it's going because that takes like a minute for them to explain all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, let's keep going
Yeah.
on Rishi. There's a meteor shower happening.
Oh
And
no!
it's just like,
They have to
whoa, this
prepare
is
for it.
crazy.
The
Because
most.
I mean, that would be terrible. That would actually be terrible if you had to like deal with like rocks actually
Hitting the
hitting you.
base, yeah.
hurtling towards the frickin' moon, and I mean, hey, that's the most exciting thing that's happened all day.
Uh-huh. Probably all like month for them, so.
Isn't it? Didn't they? Don't they make mention of that? As like, well, you got your excitement.
Yeah, and he's like, ooh, meteor
Meteor
shower.
shower.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah,
I'm
some of the
just-
meteors, they collide and explode on the base's shields. And yeah, I find that really, really interesting because just so we're clear for other forms of Star Wars media, this is proof that shields they work in atmosphere. But I don't know what I'd be referencing. Let's move on.
I actually have no idea what he's referencing, but that's okay.
We'll
Let's keep
find
going.
out
We'll
soon
we'll
enough.
talk about it. We don't have to talk about it. It's just a thing, just in case we ever need to talk about it. That's just there in the back of our heads.
Shields
You
in
know,
atmosphere.
yeah.
So-
Write it down in your
Off
in your.
comes
Kyle,
to
we've
mind
been
that-
on enough tangents. Let's keep going.
Just
Okay, I'm
remember
just gonna think. I'll just sit and ruminate on
Alright.
this.
Remember
Put my
to write
dunce
that
cap on, 'cause
down
it's probably
in your-
obvious.
in your Clone Point notebook that
Yes.
shields work in atmosphere.
Okay, cool.
Well,
I'm just gonna sit over here in my no clone points corner with the dunce hat on and try to ruminate on this
Oh,
because it's probably
so
obvious.
sad.
Don't worry.
Well, so some meteors they hit the ground near the base because they don't all hit the base. Why would they all hit the base? That'd be weird. But yeah, you see them and it's revealed. Whoa, they're not meteors at all. They're actually a bunch of.
Drop pods.
Well, I actually have the name of them. They are Droke class droid boarding ships. They're the
Oh.
same types of ships that we saw in the Malevolence arc. They're the pod hunters.
That were called the hunter pods.
Yeah,
Hunter
but
pods,
these are Droke class boarding ships. And
These
these
things.
pods are interesting because one of the
They
clones,
carry.
CT-327, spots them right before. Oh no, he's been spotted by these droids. They are
So
BX series
Commando
droids.
droids.
Yeah, we can call them commandos. Their
droids.
official name are BX series droid commandos.
Everybody calls them commando droids.
Yeah. But
so
yes, I'll let you go before I continue.
there was a collection of action figures that was released with this episode, and one of them was a bunch of commando droids, and they came with one of them had just like a clone helmet that you could put on the droids. I just thought that was really interesting.
Oh, that's really cool.
I really wanted that little thing growing up, and then I never got it because we were.
You know what's hilarious? I have just 'cause from my childhood, I have random pieces of Legos, like that are probably still sitting around my room, and whenever I clean it, I find it's like, oh hey, look, a Lego piece that was probably from some set that used to be in here that is now long gone. And last a while ago when I was cleaning up in here, I found a commando droid head.
Hey.
Neat.
And I was like, oh hey, look at you! I remember you.
Interesting.
Well,
Well,
He doesn't have a body though. I have no idea. It's just now he's just a head. It's okay.
So head.
the BX series commandos. The BX commandos, they are technical upgrades to both the B1 and B2 battle droids. They're faster and stronger than B1s. They are as resilient as B2s, and they have voice changers that allow them to mimic the enemy.
And they have melee weapons.
Yeah, and then also their joints. This was pointed out in the extras for this on my DVD copy. They have joints that resemble human anatomy. So yeah, and then lastly, they can. One thing that I noticed in this episode, they can burn through doors similarly to Jedi with a lightsaber. And the reason I point that out is just because we see it in the episode, and in other episodes we see B1s using a torch to do that.
Ah,
So it's like, okay,
So
so
they must have like
these guys are good.
they must
they're
have it like built into their
advanced.
arms.
Mm-hmm.
They're
So I
advanced.
guess the next question would be why is this our first time seeing them, and why don't we tend to see them more often? And there's an
We have
answer
an
to
answer
that.
for that.
Yeah, they're
Are they?
they're a lot better, which means they're a lot more expensive.
That's what I was.
And this is one of the first
Yes.
squads.
Yeah, and also as we see in this episode, I mean, yeah, as we see in the episode, they lose the base and they have to like the B1 droids, just a giant squadron of B1 droids end up taking the base back. So it's like even though they're better, like it still makes sense to have the B1s around. So it's like that's a pretty cool reason to have these guys here, but to not show them very often and still maintain continuity with the other movie or with the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I like it.
Because imagine if it was just like in the show, commando droids are just like the main fighting force, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, why aren't these in the movies?
Mm-hmm.
Grievous is just like, I could win this whole war if I had commando droids.
Yeah.
I could. He'd be more like I could win this whole war if I had my original armies from Kali.
Yes.
Oh, probably could.
Absolutely. Anyways, that's a
Yes.
tangent for another day.
Yes. Well, Sergeant. The Sergeant, he turns back to tell the four other clones. Wait, no, sorry. Whoa, I skipped ahead. The Sergeant attempts to receive a report from CT-327. He's the guy that initially saw them, but they killed the BX droids. The first time we see them is in that like little jump scare where he's on the he's looking at the ship, and then I mean I showed it on the screen. He's looking at the ship, and then the BX jump scares.
The commando gets him.
Yeah. But yeah, with no response because Sergeant is he's like, what's happening? He gets no response, so he sends two clones to investigate. Now these clones are Droid Bait, and here's the name. The name is Nub.
I knew it was stupid.
And you wanna know why it's called Nub? Or why he's called Nub?
Why is he called Nub?
Because it's an acronym. It stands for non-useful body.
Good grief.
Oh man, that's
And yeah, I looked it up. He doesn't have an official CT number.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's like when I. It's like when I called myself, or not myself. I called one of my characters, very stupid, but in Mandalorian, so it sounded like a clone name.
Nice.
I think it was like, oh no, I also called another one, very loud, and also in Mandalorian. Anyways, continuing on.
But yeah, they are heading for the door, but then the door opens and you see a bunch of the commandos, and they're just like droids.
Gross.
But then they die.
Yep.
And Sergeant, he's just like, hey, we gotta get a message to the Republic. Like the base is getting taken, we're getting overrun. And then he dies.
We gotta go.
And he dies very, like, he gets knocked to the ground because he's shot in the leg, and then three commandos just blast him unceremoniously.
Got absolutely schmeckled on, bro.
Also,
not even a chance.
So I didn't pay it very much mind. I didn't really say much about it. That's because the show doesn't really say much about it. Droid Bait's dead.
Yeah, Droid Bait is gone.
He's gone.
He's gone.
We're not. He wasn't even mentioned in the episode. So apparently, Droid Bait's name only came about from Clone Cadets.
Yep. Otherwise, he would be nameless man who died alongside Nub.
Yeah.
Fucking Nub. But yeah, no, he's dead.
That just made me really sad.
Now there's
just because, like, okay, I guess he's gone.
No
like,
plot armor for Domino Squad.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that, lads.
So yeah, cut up. He closes the door and he seals it by pulling some wires out. And at the same time, another clone, which I'm pretty sure is Echo, but I'm not sure, he opens up this grate on a vent.
They start venting.
They're venting.
Just
But yeah, they're
good
just like, we
grief.
gotta get out of here. Right as the doors are being broken into. And they get out, they put the vent back up, and it's just like, alrighty, we're safe. And the
And then the
BXs,
droid,
I have them
the
labeled
commandos.
as the BXs, but I'll try and start calling them the commandos.
Yeah, it's alternative.
Yeah.
It's whatever. We know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, they say contact General Grievous, and then they also wanted to begin to hardwire the all clear signal. So the point here is that this all clear signal is going to be like rooted into the system so that it'll constantly relay to the Republic that everything's fine, we're good.
How are
So
you?
yeah,
How are you doing?
Just
Yep.
an outgoing transmission request, like, "Hey,
Hey,
call
how's it
us. We're
going?
lonely."
We're doing good here. We're all
My
fine
parents
here. How
aren't
are you doing?
home.
Freaking Han Solo it up. Ah,
Uh, but yeah, the Republic, they're not gonna know that there's a problem until something. I guess we'll find
it's
out.
too late.
It's
So
too late
we
for
jump
something to
to.
happen.
Do we jump to Grievous now?
We do. In fact, actually, yeah, I don't know why I'm being very ambiguous on the problem, because we see a separatist fleet. There's nine
Very small one.
munificent. Well, I don't know. It's still pretty. It's big enough to start an invasion. There's 9 munificent class frigates and 2 Lucrehulk. The
New Looker Hulks is pretty
yeah.
good.
Yeah, that's enough to at the very least start to secure airspace. I don't know how well they'll do because it's a siege on Camino, but I mean,
I was gonna say
it's enough to
the
start
goal.
something.
The goal is to invade Camino. That is
Yeah,
Grievous's plan.
yeah, and so Grievous, he's here and he's just like, whoa, all right, all clear signal, it's coming. And then also there's a spy on Camino. The spy is
Ooh.
Ventress,
Up.
and it's like,
Unbelievable.
whoa,
What's
that's where
she
she's
doing
been.
on there?
Yeah, and she basically explains that everything is in place to start this invasion. And Grievous, as Grievous puts it, he says the destruction of Camino will stop their production of clones for good. And it's like, ooh, interesting.
That is a big target. I will say though, this is very bold.
This is a very bold plan.
This is very bold. This is also coming. I'm not saying. I'm not saying this isn't a smart plan. It's a smart plan. I mean, this is the strategic move you'd want to do, right?
I'd say this is about as bold as of a plan. I mean, not as bold, but this is on a similar level of trying to kill Grievous, which we
Yeah.
see many plot lines trying to do. So it's like they're both trying to hit each other so hard that the war is stunted before it's really taken off. Because we're only like 3 months into the war so far.
I will say that is like the objective everybody looks for in a war. Everybody is grasping at that one decisive thing that is going to tip the war ultimately in their favor forever. That is warfare. That is warfare. I think though it's like, how much money did you lose on the malevolence? And now you're just gonna do this. I don't know. Like, you just lost this huge thing like a few weeks
Huge
ago, and you're
capital
now
ship.
back on your. How are you back on your feet,
Well,
ready to go invade Camino?
well, to be fair, they do have the banking clan on their side, so
That's true.
That's
that
true.
is
They
like
have a lot of
they have
money.
a lot of
Over-
We did. I
money.
was gonna say
But
we did
yeah,
talk about that last week. They have a lot of money.
yes.
It's like, wow, you lost this. What I would say is a pretty, you lost the biggest ship. But then again, it's not like you lose one big ship that you lose the war. So
Yeah, it's like if someone claimed like, ah yes, if we just destroy the biggest airship carrier that the U.S. has, we've basically beaten America. Like, not quite. Hmm.
Well, I guess
Not
let's
It's like,
continue.
if we blow up that one harbor in
That's
Hawaii, we've won, right? Right?
Oh no.
Right?
right.
Oh.
Oh no.
Oh
What have you
no.
done?
All
The
right.
power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
And now it's on the ground over there.
Yes. All
Now,
right. Well, back on not on
big
Rishi.
clones!
We're with Cody and Rex. They're arriving at Rishi, and they're like, you can see it. It's the planet right over. It's the moon right over there. The planet's below them. So they're just like, let's figure out what's happening. Let's talk to him. And yeah, there's the image of the commando putting on a clone helmet, and he begins to use his voice modulator. I think that's the word for it, but his voice changer, and he's just like, "Oh, yep, everything's good here. We don't need any inspection. No
Inspection.
need."
Please don't.
Yeah,
Please don't. We're good. And then Rex
yeah,
and Cody are like, "Nah, we still coming."
yeah. He says, no inspection is needed, and Cody insists that they proceed with the inspection. So the BX says, "Roger, Roger."
Roger, Roger.
And
Uh-oh.
Rex is just like,
Now that's
hold
pretty.
up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
Exactly.
Except Cody is just like, good luck, I'm putting you in charge. Because yeah,
He does.
Rex he's sussing out the commandos.
He's gonna vote
I
them
was
out.
not expecting us to have so many Among Us jokes in this Clone Wars podcast. We've had a couple of them.
Well, episode 1 was just like full Among
It was
Us.
full on Among Us mode. I
We
still
were really
cringe.
amonging. What am I even saying? I need to stop.
Well,
No
all
more
right.
talk. Next
Well,
2 minutes.
okay. Well, back on Rishi, the clones, they're exiting the air duct and they find themselves on a platform on the cliff face. So let's just remember there is Cut Up, Fives, Echo, and Heavy. There's four of them. And I'm not sure what order they're in, but they're just like, okay, well, we're here. And then one of them is just like, watch out for the giant eels. And they're just like, what giant eels?
And
Right
then
as one of them's behind them, and it just eats Cut Up,
Cut Up. And
and it
then Cut
leaves.
Up's gone.
Yeah.
And now
And it's
he's
just
dead.
Again, like, just what a unceremonious way for him to go out.
and then
Like,
again, remember, like they did this before they even did Clone Cadets and had the opportunity to build these people out, but it's just like
yeah, I wonder what their plan was, because like,
I
man, that
feel like
just,
these guys were just cannon fodder.
if
I
you
think
watch this chronologically, like when I watched Clone Cadets, like I said, I didn't know pretty much any thoughts on Domino Squad. We had an episode. It was, I think it was the movie that we were talking about different clones, and Daniel, you mentioned Domino Squad and talked about how we follow them quite a bit, and I thought you meant like we follow a squad of clones. I guess it's really just Fives and Echo, because yeah, we've
yeah.
already gotten two of them gone very, very quickly. Because, like, I watched Clone Cadets and I was like, man, this is cool. Each of these clones are very interesting in their own ways. I'm excited to see their perspectives going for. Oh, there, two of them are dead.
Yep, nope. They're dropping like flies.
Yeah.
That's the tragedy of Domino Squad.
Hmm.
That there is no plot armor for them.
Mm-hmm.
They they
Well,
they are yeah.
I'm fine with no plot armor. I'm actually, I'd prefer if people don't have plot armor. I'd rather you write your stories so that you don't need plot armor. But I'm not a big fan of this. Feels more like this feels like they didn't know what to do with these characters. They initially just had a couple characters in this group die, and then they decided afterwards, no, we're gonna make them a squad that we see the training of. Because like,
Hmm.
I would like to imagine a version of the Clone Wars that spends all five seasons following a squad of starting as rookies, entering to be like battle hardened to the point where by the time we're at season five, they're basically veterans.
Hmm.
And maybe it's more than five. Maybe it's like two squads of clones, and a couple of them get killed, throughout the show until by the end we really get to know three or four of them, and it's just like they have their new perspectives post war of just like
and like
this
looking at
war just
them.
really sucks. Like this could be a show that really accentuates that war sucks.
Hmm. You've read my like primordial thoughts on what I would do if I was handed a Star Wars show. That's literally what I would do.
Mm.
Either that that was like my first option. But if they're like, no, we don't want to do any clones, then I would do it with stormtroopers, because in the Star Wars canon, we've had you know, humanization of clone troopers, obviously. We've had humanization of First Order stormtroopers with Finn, but we haven't
Have
had
we?
any
Have we
humaniz
really?
just roll with me here. But we have never had any humanization of any like Imperial stormtroopers outside of like the games. And they always
Mhm.
defect to the rebels. And I'm like,
I've been trying to
listen,
push I've been really trying to push continuing with this episode, but now that you've brought it up, I do want to take this
That is
tangent.
that is that is
Daniel
Ryan's tangent.
Daniel, you've caught up with Mandalorian, right?
yes, I'm all caught up.
So
I still have no idea what's
just
going
to
on, so
perfectly
I'm just
date
gonna kind of
just to
bog out, I guess.
yeah, just to perfectly date this episode, we are in between episodes 5 and 6 right now, and we talked a little bit about episode 3, and I really liked. I'm gonna deliver the hot take because I know a lot of people weren't the biggest fan of episode 3. I think it's possibly the best Mandalorian episode yet, which
Hmm.
is funny because it doesn't follow Mando pretty much at all. It follows this dude that he was the scientist that was in charge of like protecting Baby Yoda when Mando brought him back. But yeah, obviously that fell through, and we follow his journey as Moff Gideon has been taken down. He goes to Coruscant, and he's just in this empire. I don't even know exactly how to call it. It's like
It's
a
a
way of reintroducing empire
Imperial
affiliates
to
into the
the
Republic
public.
Society. Yeah, and it's about him trying to uh the Republic trying to remove any sort of brainwashing that was put on his part, and it's like just this really interesting story. I was like, wow, you're actually exploring in like a meaningful way what it would mean to live in a post-empire society and what it would mean for a new government that beat the empire to attempt to build something from that, right? I mean, when Nazi Germany fell, and I guess the various scientists of Nazi Germany entered other countries and began helping them, like, it wasn't a smooth transition, right?
No.
There were a lot of
No, there's a
things that
lot of
happened.
dark.
Yeah,
There's a lot of dark stuff, some good stuff and some dark stuff too.
and it was
Um
just really
about
interesting
that.
seeing a story about a person not like important in the slightest, just being introduced to the society and becoming the cog in someone else's machine, and how
Hmm.
he feels about that. That was like really interesting. And yeah, I just thought that was really cool. I don't know how we got here from clones, but yeah, I liked that. I think we'll get back to on topic, but I'd like to see stories like that.
I'd like to
What
see that with battle droids. Or maybe some of the
That'd be
separatists.
really cool. Yeah.
It'd be interesting.
you
I
know
don't know
what?
how much you can do, but
You know what? Rolling it back to those Clone Wars comics, there was a comic of a droid who,
got unhooked
while
from the command.
no, yeah,
I
while it
did
was
see
on a
that.
march, it hit its head, and its central processor that connected it to the separatist programming got destroyed, and it got like free will and everything, and it decided to just run
I
off,
remember hearing about this.
and it fought like a super battle droid for its freedom, and it comforted the super battle droid in its final moments, because the super battle droid was like, you must comply, you must return, and then he like killed it by like throwing it off a cliff or whatever. They fell off a cliff together, and then is like, "Please, I do not want to power down." And you're like, "Oh man."
Here's a thought.
Or
What if we had, at the very least, a story, an arc of a show about a separatist, I don't know, a colony that it lives under the separatists and just their perspectives on the war? I mean, what if we viewed people on Coruscant that don't really care who's in control of what. They don't care about any of this bureaucracy so long as a dollar is still a dollar and they can live in luxury, right? But what if we got to
Mhm.
see stories of people beyond just the straight good guys or bad guys, or even just stories about the bad guys? Because I feel like we only ever see the Republic, the rebels,
yeah,
the resistance, right? We don't ever, for such a vast galaxy, we have such a small window to view it through.
which is why I will always complain that in video games, whenever you play as the bad guys, you always turn into a good guy. Let me play as someone
Oh man,
evil.
Battlefront 2. Everyone was so excited
Ugh.
to play as a not it's like a that TIE fighter pilot, and everyone was
Uh-huh.
super excited, and then like I started playing that. I was actually quite interested because I was like, "Oh man, I'm playing as the bad guys." And then the minute she started turning like defecting from the Empire and turning good, I was like, "All right, I think I've played enough cuz this is
Yep.
taking a massive taking a 180 from what they said it was going to be."
Yeah. It was super
Yeah,
cool. The
it's
special
Yeah.
forces.
it's why it's I always find it interesting, and this is on a basic scale. I'll say this really quick. The game War Thunder,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
which is about aircraft and tanks and stuff. It's just you're fighting other aircraft. When I always find it weird like playing as the Germans, but it's like you're it's just an aircraft. It's not like it's just somebody flying a plane in a war.
Uh-huh.
It's what it is. It's just you're just on a different side.
I loved
Yeah.
playing as the Germans when I was in Call of Duty World War II Zombies. it was fun. I was just like, "Hey, I'm working with an American. We're doing it."
Yeah, no, listen. Have you I am not gonna
It's
tangent on
like when
this.
I played as Nikita Khrushchev in
So I think we're
1960s COD zombie mode.
Okay, I don't want to tangent on this, but
I
have
think
you
we're too
guys
far.
ever
We're
ever
pretty
looked
far away from the show.
have you guys ever looked into the COD zombies lore though? It is
Is weird. Is
weirdly
really weird.
expansive.
Let's get back to the show.
Yeah,
Let's do
let's
that.
do that.
But
So,
oh my goodness. Anyways,
As
continuing
the editor
on.
of the
yes.
last
Oh,
episode, we
so
we need to keep going.
yeah, Cut Up died. So
Oh,
Cody,
back
the
to
rest of the
sadness.
clones, it's Heavy, Echo, and Fives. They see the Cody and Rex arriving. It's right there. It's like, whoa, they're here. Um, Now let me see. I'm just double checking
It's
where my slides are. Yes.
Cody and Rex start
So
talking to the dude on the platform.
yeah, before we get to that, I'm actually just gonna finish up everything that happens with them in this scene because it kind of bounces back and forth for a bit, but not a lot happens with them. So yeah,
Right.
they're just like, oh crap, they're gonna, they're gonna see the commandos. They might die. So let's connect to their comm links. But that doesn't work. So Heavy is, I think it's Heavy, is like, I'm gonna send flare. They're gonna, they're gonna see it and they're gonna go, whoa. I don't know where we got a flare, but that's fine. We can
It,
continue.
he has it in his.
Back pocket.
I'm gonna. Yes, in his back pocket.
Yes. Well, Cody and Rex, they get here and they land and they're just like, "Whoa, look at this base. Wow, there isn't a deck officer. That's sloppy."
Mm-hmm.
Which is, yeah, I like that was the first thing that they noticed cuz it's like, "Ooh, that's pretty cool." But
Yeah, it's
then
like
they're greeted by this guy. He's not a
I.
clone. He's a commando.
What do you mean? He's definitely the deck officer who was just using the
Oh.
bathroom.
Oh, I was wondering. I thought you
Using
said
the
he's
French.
using the deck room. He's the
Yeah, he's
deck
using the
officer.
deck
He's
room.
using the deck room.
Man,
Obviously.
man, I thought this was bathrooms and decks.
Rats.
No, this is eels and escalators.
Oh
Get it? Because there
man.
was an
Oh,
eel
rat.
in the show.
Wow.
Wow, it's
There
crazy.
sure was.
But yeah, this guy, he walks out and he's just like, "Whoa, the base is operating. It's fine. Oh, you don't need to come in. It's fine. Don't come in my room. It's all good."
Please leave.
Yeah. Well, I
Which,
guess. Yeah, I
oh
don't
yeah,
know why the droids would have thought this plan could work, but I mean, again, they're droids probably not programmed to have to deal with random inspections, so I'm not gonna harp on that.
yeah,
And another thing that I don't want to harp on, I'm only mentioning this because it is pointed out and addressed as a flaw by the writers. Um, B1 droids, they have the two fingers and the thumbs. But this
right.
one apparently has five fingers and a thumb because he's in the clone armor.
Yeah, he
Um,
has his gloves.
yeah,
I don't know why,
I guess
but
that's the
he does.
case. That's fine. The only reason I pointed out, I didn't even notice it until the behind the scenes pointed it out. So it's like, all right, yeah.
I didn't even notice until you mentioned it right now. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen this episode like a billion times, and I know commando droids have three fingers, but it just clicked. I was like, yeah, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Hold
Yeah.
on.
Well, next Cody's just like, well, we're gonna see the base whether you want us to or not. But then yeah, Rex is just like, no, you need to take us to the sergeant in charge. So the clone says, Roger, Roger. And
Roger,
then,
Roger.
because everything's bouncing back and forth, the flare is launched. And this flare is specifically a battle droid attack flare. And Rex, who's been sussing out these whatever's going on with these clones, just immediately shoots him. And he's just like,
He's just like,
haha, I
all right.
knew it. And
And Cody's like, Rex!
Rex, wait a
And then
minute.
he's
He's
like,
like,
it's a
nah,
droid.
nah, I'm smart.
I like how Cody didn't react harder. That's always hit me as very funny. You imagine your lifelong friend. You've been fighting together since the start of the war, and you guys are just on a routine inspection. This guy's acting a little weird. A flare goes off, and then your friend just like rolls up and just blasts the dude in front of you, and you're just like, "Aw, come
Ah,
on,
man, how
man!"
could you did that?
Just
Now we're gonna
it
get in
always was.
trouble. I left you
Oh,
in
I
charge.
I would. I have to report you for this now. Oh,
He
you're
goes
gonna
for
get
the
Man.
headshot.
Yeah.
you. This.
Oh man. But yeah, they're like, oh man, it's one of those new commando droids. But then, like, they don't have enough time to think because they're getting shot at from all angles, and that
And
image isn't very, it doesn't do it justice because that's only like 6 shots. But yeah, it's a lot of lasers everywhere.
and this is precisely where the level in the Lego game begins. Is right
Oh,
here.
neat. But
I
yeah,
remember that.
grenades they're thrown at the ship, and a massive explosion which traps everyone on Rishi because I don't think there's a spare ship.
Nope.
So yeah, now they're trapped. There's the explosion. It's like, oh no. And the droids are just like, ah, they must have died in the explosion. Let's
They
resume our defensive positions.
they must have been absolutely atomized. That's why there are no bodies.
I think that's actually what they say. It's like, okay,
Yeah, they're just like there's no bodies. Where'd they
mhm,
go? I guess they're
they're
just
gone.
disintegrated.
I guess so.
Obviously, that's how good our bombs are, and
But they're
everyone's
not disintegrated. It's crazy. I know. Maybe a little plot armor, but they're not. But now they're stranded, and they run into the rookies. And it's like, oh no, they're there, and they point their guns, and they're just like, take off your helmets, we command you.
They call them something really weird, don't they?
Um, I don't think so.
They because I remember they don't say helmets. They
They
say
say
like take
remove your
your.
helmets.
Did they say helmets? I could have sworn it was something like really
Ah,
weird sounding. I'm gonna
ah,
look this up. Hold on. You
okay.
you keep going on your spiel.
But yeah, they take off their helmets, and they're just like, oh, okay. Also, the eel returns and Rex just one shots it. Um, and I like the detail that they have them take off their helmets because they immediately realize that unless they can see the face, you may not be a clone. But
Hmm.
I definitely don't like that the eel just gets one shot. I
Oh
feel
yeah,
like it
yeah, yeah.
hurts my investment in the story a lot.
Yeah, he went down kind of like a sissy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
know we're
So
in agreement on that, but I will just quick explain before you explain what they say. The reason why I don't like the eel going down in one shot is just because it's what killed Cut Up, right? And if it can be
yeah,
killed in one shot, then that cheapens Cut Up's death to something that is easily avoidable. And it's just like, okay,
yeah.
I get that Rex is more experienced, and we had to find a way to get the blue paint on his hand or the blood on his hand so we can put the thing on Echo, but like. I like the imagery, but I feel like they could have done it better.
Like in the game, it's like a whole boss fight. Like you have to like, there's a whole puzzle fight. You have to
Oh,
like
okay.
shoot
I do
the thing
recall
on his
that
head,
Hmm. All
because I
right.
was
and
like,
then
man, the worm looks familiar. Because I was like, I remember there was a worm in this episode. Oh, right, he was a mini boss.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you have to like grapple his head, and then you shoot it, and he has like three. I don't remember, but yeah. So he calls the helmets, "Take your sun bonnets off."
Sunbonnets.
It is
What is this,
never.
Brit?
Okay.
It is never referred to that
Excuse
ever
me.
again.
Huh.
It has.
Ex-
I don't know why. Also, they
I've been
mention.
I've been watching too much Top Gear to know that that is very British.
All
I,
right.
I, I suppose, but
Bonnets.
just look at the bonnet on that one.
Hmm.
Anyways, they also mentioned to Bryn. I think it's interesting to talk about like things that have happened off screen.
Mm-hmm.
Places that times that they've fought together. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Nice. So yeah, they're just like, who are ya? And Fives, he's this one. He's like, I'm CT27-5555. And Heavy's just like, well, we call him Fives. And then he's like, this is Echo, and I'm Heavy. And
Just-
yeah, Echo explains that their sergeant is dead, and they're all that's left of the base. Um, which I guess the base was only designed to be run by 7 people. Um,
Yeah, skeleton crew, I guess.
yeah, I see that as a problem, just mainly because the seizure of this base means the potential invasion of Camino. Like,
Yeah,
apparently, this is one of the only bases. As far as the episode is concerned, this is the only base that stands between the Separatists and Camino. Now, I cannot believe that that's the case, but I.
There's
Mm,
yeah.
well, what I'm assuming is like,
You would think Camino would have a fleet
yeah, this is just
near
this
it.
is an oversight that is far too massive for a galactic military to ignore,
yeah,
right? Like,
I'm guessing that it's that they're like, um, um, what's a I was gonna say something, and then my brain has just totally erased all information whatsoever. What
mm.
are we talking about?
Well, I don't think.
Oh,
I
okay.
guess as far as the skeleton crew goes, I'm fine with the base being run
Oh,
by
okay,
7 people,
I remember it
but
now.
what I'm not fine with is this is like 7 people stand between Camino and the rest of the world or the rest of the galaxy. Like, I just don't think that is the case. It can't
Okay, yeah,
be.
okay. I remember. What I think that the Republic is assuming is that they have enough protection beyond Rishi that to even get to Rishi, that they're overestimating their forces. So like they've left Rishi like underprotected because they're like, yeah, no, they won't even be able to get there, kind of thing. It's like if you, it's
You
like
want to win? Too bad.
it's like not wearing your armor because you think that your shield is strong enough to protect you, even
Well
though if something
then,
gets past your shield, you're boned.
what's the whole point of Rex and Cody going to multiple tracking stations on the Outer Rim then? Like, The
I
whole
don't.
point of them
Yeah,
being deployed here, the whole point of the
they're
episode
making
is
sure.
predicated on the fact that there are multiple bases.
Right.
I've kind of wondered about that when I watched it. I'm like, wouldn't you have officers besides like the clone commanders doing inspections? Wouldn't you have
Hmm.
like designated
Yeah, there should be
inspectors?
inspection officers, but I think
There's
it's
an
fine just because these
oh,
are clones that we follow around. I think that's all
Yeah,
right, but yeah, it's like ooh,
it is what it is.
yeah,
it is what it is.
it is what it is. Um, so yeah, Rex is just like, looks like we got a batch of shinies. And he's like,
Shiny.
your armor, it's shiny and new, just like you. And that's when he puts his hand on Echo, and it's like, ooh, look at that imagery.
Oh yeah, that handprint will stay on him forever.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that as the case, but one thing that I do find really funny is that their armor in this moment is just as damaged as and dirty as Rex's and Cody's.
Yes.
But like,
Indeed.
again, that's fine.
What I'm guessing is that what I'm gonna assume is it's not the state of their armor that tipped him off
It's the
because
fact
obviously
that they're on a training outpost and that they're like the people there. That's what I'd say because the opening crawl mentions that these are clones that are unfinished in their
yeah.
training.
Not only that, but um introducing yourself by your number,
Oh,
I
that's
feel
probably
that
part of
is
it too.
very like fresh off the dock because like you look at like I'm gonna go to freaking Bad Batch again, because that's what the first thing I can think of. There's an episode where like the Empire comes in to reinforce these clones that have been stationed on this planet for like a very long time. They get there, and he introduces himself by his name, and he never mentions his number. He doesn't want to be known as his number. He wants to be known as his name,
Hmm.
which I guess can also just be something like but that would be a thing I would associate with a clone who has been in on active duty for a while, wanting that individuality
Well, I guess we could
instead
take
of
this even further. I mean, Cody and Rex, they're inspecting these bases. So, like, they've seen many many clones that have never seen battle recently. So,
hmm
like, possibly within the past few hours. So it's like, yeah, that he's probably just connecting the dots.
yeah, and also it might also be like the way he carries himself. The
Or also on top of that, it could just be a flaw with the animation there where they were supposed to have shiny new armor.
Yeah, that is also true.
Yeah,
They're
this
supposed to be
animation is.
shiny at that point, and then
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just supposed to get dirty throughout the episode, which
yeah.
would have been cool, but didn't happen.
Well, I mean, I already know that there have been animation flaws. I didn't write this down, but in the extras, they talked about there are these giant boxes that you see in it that have like a big circle in it. But sometimes those boxes have a hexagon, and that's just because of the way that people coded it. Just sometimes people would code it wrong, and it'd have like not a circle.
Huh? Interesting.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I want to rewatch the episode and look for these dots and circles.
Yeah, they're mainly on that main platform, so you'll probably see them
Right.
as I go through. But yeah, with
Okay,
the
let's keep going.
yes, the plan they've got to retake the base. But yeah, Heavy he's like adamant that they can take it back whether or not their armor is shiny. But moving on, we've got Anakin and Obi-Wan, and they're just like, man, Rex and Cody they haven't contacted us yet, and they kind of snipe each other about like who's at fault. Like Obi-Wan is just like, I see that your captain follows orders as well as you do, and Obi-Wan or Anakin is just like, well, of course he's not following orders when he's being bored to death by Cody.
It's like projecting.
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah,
they're definitely just having fun with each other, and it's becoming an excuse for them to just trust their clones, and it's like you probably should be checking in on this, but they trust their clones enough to
yeah.
not.
Here, just like it appears your captain follows orders as well as you do. Perhaps Cody is boring Rex with standard procedures and protocol. well, we need to work on our own boring procedures.
Yep, and that's just that. So I was like, okay, all right.
Fascinating.
Because they've got to find Grievous. So yeah, back to the clones. They're like, we got to retake that base, and so because the whole point is if they don't, then Camino could fall because they don't know what the plan of the enemy is. They don't know that an invasion is on its way yet. Uh,
Mm.
so Cody he asks Rex how he plans to get through the blast doors, and Rex is just like, "I've got a few ideas."
I like it.
And it's an interesting idea. I'll give you that.
Mhm. I will say, uh, that this episode is full of colorful new ways to talk about droids. Not only do we have the classic clankers, but we also have a new tweezers.
Tweezers.
As long as those tweezers occupy this post, our home planet of
Hmm.
Camino is at
I
rest.
never caught that. That's
Interesting.
weird.
I don't remember what they call it. It's either in this episode or in the next episode, but they have a certain name that they call something. I don't remember. I'll say it in the next episode, but for now,
Oh, I can look through
you'll
this.
just have to think.
Oh, laughed out there. I hate thinking.
Yes, I know. But here's the plan, because Rex he's walking up to the base where the camera's pointed at him, and it's like, huh, what's gonna happen? Um, Rex is going to pretend to be a commando in clone armor, and if he's prompted to remove his helmet, then he'll do it, right? I mean, and that's what happens. He's like, remove your helmet, and it's just like, oh, Roger, Roger, and he removes the helmet and reveals
The
He
the
didn't actually remove
destroyed
his helmet. He just holds a droid head up.
yeah, the destroyed droid head. And yeah, that's gonna be enough for them to open the door. This is a really dumb plan.
this is never
Well,
gonna work.
I think it's a fine plan. Like, sorry, I don't mean it's a dumb plan. The dumb part of the plan is the fact that Rex is the one doing it. Because
Yeah,
Rex is one of the two clones that have distinctive armor in this episode. Well, I guess there's three because of Echo, but he's one of the three clones that shouldn't be doing this, right? If Fives or Heavy did it, then it would make a lot more sense because
Who's
they could actually,
bone armor.
yeah,
Yeah.
the commandos might be able to not see through this, but with Rex being it, it's just like you're very clearly not that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy.
Yeah. I guess it can work. It's a possibility, but it's really weak to me. So, yeah. They get into the base and he's just like, haha.
Roger.
Yeah, he says Roger, Roger, and then he shoots. Hey, there's the boxes. They're not circular. Interesting.
Oh, brother.
I
That's
know.
a
It's crazy. But yeah, they get into the base and they take it back, and there's a fight scene, and it's like, whoa. I guess the fight has a little plot armor, but I feel like it's very minimal. I say plot armor a lot. Yeah, I feel like there's a general level of things that happen, people that should be getting hurt when they aren't. But yeah, Echo he takes a hit to the arm, but nobody else is hurt. So
those fives who got hurt.
oh, it might have been Fives. I don't know. Someone takes a hit to the arm, but yeah.
Somebody.
Yeah, they take the base, and Cody, he sees something. He's just like, guys, look out the window. And they see.
It's a drop ship.
The boot.
No, not yet, not yet.
Oh,
Because this is where they find out the fleet is passing overhead.
Oh yeah, the big fleet.
Yeah, and that's where we get all of the 9 Munificent class and the 2 Lucre Hulks. But yeah, they're just like, oh no, they're on their way, and it's like, uh-oh, this is a problem. We gotta do something. But yeah, this definitely is, like you said, Kyle. This isn't a large enough fleet to launch an attack on Camino. Like it can start something, but it definitely couldn't secure airspace.
It can definitely like do some damage because if you group all of those frigates in one place, that's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
But and if you get the two ships, the battleships together, yikes, run.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're going to invade Camino of all places where all the clones are,
Mm-hmm.
I'd bring a bigger fleet. I'd bring a way bigger fleet.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to have complete air superiority.
Uh-huh. Well, back to Grievous. The B1 that's next to him is like, hey, the base is still saying it's all clear, but I mean, the commando droids aren't responding. And Grievous is like, let's, we can't have any loose ends. Let's send a battalion.
Which is smart.
Yeah, he says,
Mhm.
let's leave nothing to chance.
Yep.
So, yeah, the
I
clones are just
will.
like, oh.
I will say I was sorry for my silence before. It's a little late, but when they're looking and they see the big ship, it reminds me of this scene in the Republic Commando game when you're kind of going through this ship and you're clearing out these hangars and you're looking out through this giant window and one of your guys, Sev, goes, "I think I see it. A Trade Federation battleship." One of the other clones goes, not even you can see into hyperspace, Sev." And then it just like appears. He goes, "Oh, blast." Oh man. But anyways, that was my mini rant. Continuing on.
Hello,
Hello?
Hello?
Ryan. Are you? Oh, everything just got really quiet.
Everything did get quiet. It's
It got
okay.
very. I said my piece, and then
He said his
everyone
piece, and then
Everyone
I
silent.
was waiting
hated it.
for. I expected.
No,
Oh
Kyle hated it. That's why he was
Rats.
silent.
no, I liked it. I
Aw.
thought it was cool.
Well, you
I
should have
was just
said
giving
that
her.
earlier.
Oh man, why
No.
am I getting just beat up, man?
Oh,
Because I'm trying
brother,
to. Because
this
Kyle, it's
guys.
because I'm trying to hide the fact that I didn't say anything either.
Thanks for
Anyways,
throwing me
back to
under the
the
bus.
clones. They're just like, whoa, the sabotage. It's all clear signal. It's been hardwired into the system. And they're just like, it'll take a lot of time to fix the issues, but we don't have that because there's a battalion. It's like, oh no.
And who has the bright idea of blowing everything up?
That's Rex, I believe. It's either Rex or Cody. Because I think it's
Because they
both of
have
them.
a bunch of
Yeah, they're
Tabana
just like,
gas.
we have to destroy this base because at the very least that will put out an all
That will break
clear
the
signal.
right. That will
Yeah.
break the all clear.
Yeah, it'll stop putting out the all clear, which will alert the Republic, especially because they've been quiet. So, yeah, they do this because they're informed of the highly reactive liquid tabana, which
Which
is
is
a substance used to fuel the base.
and also what you use to shoot your blaster.
Kind
Same
of.
gas. It's the same. It's the
I'm
same gas.
gonna well, I'm gonna talk about that actually because
You did a deep
I
dive.
did do a deep dive on it. It was
Oh.
quite the deep dive. So Tabana gas, it's also a liquid. It can be a liquid or a gas. It comes from various places. The most prominent of which is Cloud City. Cloud
Ooh.
City, the gas giant that Cloud City
Bespin.
orbits. Bespin, yeah. Um,
Bespin.
but it's actually that Tabana gas is not used during the Clone Wars. There's another planet that is used, but yeah, I guess
Bespin's just the one everybody would know.
I didn't write that down. But the reason why I want to point out Tabana gas is just because through my deep dive, I couldn't find anything specific to say that like Tabana gas is what fuels blasters. I had to look through. I actually had to look at a couple different sites on Wikipedia to find it. It was under the laser page that said it was Tabana gas, but blasters and Tabana gas, those sites themselves don't actually say anything about each other, which
Huh.
is that I just found that really weird.
That is really strange.
Uh but yeah,
I know that.
I have an image of. Oh, that's not it. Did I just skip the? Oh, it doesn't pull up. I guess I'll find a way to pull it up. But I had an image of Luke fighting Vader, and
He hits
in
him
their
with
fight he
what
hits
I
him
thought
with.
was steam.
I have to headcanon that it's steam, because if it's Tabana gas, like Vader's holding a lightsaber, like that
He should be
that
lit
gas
on
is,
fire and
yeah,
exploded.
His
as
face should be
is
worse than
established
it
here.
already
Yeah,
is.
as
Yeah.
is established in this episode, and just everything that we know about blasters, like Tabana is very reactive, and they use liquid Tabana to blow this up. So it's like, yeah, that I'm
So
just
it's
gonna
C4.
headcanon that it's steam,
Not
but
C4, napalm.
Yeah.
I
A whole brick of Semtex.
yes, but yeah, I can see it just in my little screenshots page, and yeah, it's just everywhere. It's all over the ground, and it's just like all over Vader's torso. So it's just like, imagine that exploding.
Not good.
Oof. Um, but I do want to talk specifically about blasters and their colors, because this is a really neat thing, because I went on this deep dive. I want to share it. Um, so we generally
Green means
understand, yeah,
go.
we
Red
generally
means
understand
stop.
the colors
Yellow
of,
means caution.
yeah, well, I guess we generally understand the colors and what they're supposed to represent, right? The good guys tend to have blue, and the bad guys tend to have red. That's kind of the
Except for the
idea.
rebels.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that kind of actually tears apart my hypothesis right from the start, because the first thing we see in A New Hope is rebels and Imperial stormtroopers using the same color blaster. But there's a reason behind
But
this,
there's a
and
cool
it's
reason.
really cool. So, red, the red color for blasters, that's the most common because it is the cheapest. And I'm assuming that this is, you know, the Tabana gas, because that's like pretty easy. You know, that the way that it seems, as far as I'm aware, it seems like that Tabana gas is the easiest to get around. It's the easiest to manufacture. So it's like, that's why blaster colors can be red, because it's really cheap. That's why we always see red blaster colors, because it's, you know, effective, but it you can get it for not that much. And it's used by the Separatists, the Rebels, the Empire, and even the First Order. But then we've got blue. Blue are ionized bolts. They're specialized in disabling specifically machinery, but they're also effective on organic material. So now these are used by the Galactic Republic and the Resistance. Um, and there's a reason why I'm interested in that. And I talked with Kyle about
I
this
ex-
the other
I
day,
said
but
it's because it's because
the reason why they chose
the
this is probably
it's
just
because blue
because,
means good and reds means bad. They just did it for color combinations and not because of any universe thing.
yeah. So I feel like, as far as the sequels are concerned, yeah, J.J. Abrams or Kathleen Kennedy, whoever made the
Or any
decision,
I would say
whoever was a
even in
higher up, because this had to
even
have,
in the like the design department.
no, this was not a design department choice. This has to have been a much bigger executive
How do you
producer,
know?
because this is a massive detail. What color are our blasters going to be? And
Yeah,
I
but still, I
guarantee
could
you,
see
and
somebody in the design department doing this.
okay, but I also, like,
Or
yes,
regardless of
someone
who
could have
chose
done
it.
this, but
Yeah, regardless
that,
of who chose it.
well, no, like, I am gonna fight you on this, because they're
Oh,
this is Star Wars, right? This is Disney. They have people, like, at least at this time, they had people who knew the lore, who discussed the lore, right? I mean, they had so many people to discuss the lore that they decanonized it, right? So, I mean, you even saw Mark Hamill fought Ryan Johnson. Like, he would, you know, have a lot of back and forth as to what Luke's character is. So I guarantee you, like, if they didn't have someone to correct them, this is what the Tabana gas is for, like, this is why it's here.
I don't even know if they would have discussed Tabana gas.
They,
Really, I don't know.
if they
I don't
didn't,
think
then
they
I,
had to.
all right, well, Kyle, here's the funny thing. If they didn't, I see that as a bigger problem.
I mean, I do understand that too. I'm looking at it from the perspective of a filmmaker in this day and age in Hollywood where they have a mandate from up high, which is we need to get a Star Wars movie out. I don't care what the story is. I don't even care if it's good.
But
We're gonna get
Kathleen
it out
Kennedy
and we're gonna
cared what
make
the
money
story
out.
was. She cared very much what the story was because she told JJ, she gave him many mandates what he had to do.
Of course, but
She made it
still.
very specific. So my guess, this is only my theory. I can't say with any certainty, but I'm pretty confident in saying that Kathleen Kennedy or whoever was in charge of many of the creative decisions for The Force Awakens decided early on when they were, or at least early on when discussing fight scenes, that the good guys will have blue lasers and the bad guys will have red lasers because the audience will better be able to understand that. And the reason why
I
I see
wonder.
this as an issue is because like there is a canon explanation as to why they're different colors. So like the
Do
fact that
green lasers mean anything?
they are.
I wonder
So
if she does.
green
I wonder if
lasers
she
are
even
actually,
knows.
well yeah, that's where I see the problem is like if
It would
she
have to
doesn't
be
know,
with.
then it's just ignorance. If she does know, then
And
I
then
would see
doesn't.
malintent because you don't, you'd rather make a
Eh,
small continuity error because like the resistance is a very cheap organization. They're a small sect of the New Republic, so
I
they
wouldn't
don't
say it's
have money.
malintent. I'd say it's laziness.
Yeah, laziness, that or malintent based off of laziness or a lack of care for the continuity of the world, right? Because the resistance, it taking from what I've been told by J.J. Abrams and whoever made, by Disney who made the sequels, the resistance is a very cheap organization. They don't have a lot of money to go around. By the time the Last Jedi comes out, or by the time the Last Jedi is over, they don't even have a fleet, right? Like, how can they have enough money to get the more expensive blaster or the more expensive um ammo for their blasters when they're not
That they
even
don't
fighting
even need.
robots? Yeah.
They don't even need it.
If
Yeah.
not, they should go for green, which Daniel you asked is the more expensive and more powerful stuff. Like TIE fighters use green ones
Green was the
because
only
they
thing I
have the
didn't get
more
to.
expensive they're
Yeah,
much more
very
TIE
refined,
expensive.
they're
fighters
much more powerful.
and Death Troopers use them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I did a whole explanation of lasers and nobody heard it. I'm sad.
But yeah, I
So
again, I
Riveting
don't see this as
riveting idea.
I don't see this as a big problem, but I mean,
I
no,
it's
don't
not at
even
all.
know.
something, right? Like, so also
And again,
purple
it's
and
not a
yellow
at least it's not a
bolts.
problem here.
Yeah,
Of
it's
the
definitely not a
movies.
problem here. In fact, I see this as a praise here because so purple and yellow bolts also exist. There isn't an explanation, but it seems like it's vanity. Orange bolts, which we have seen in Clone Cadets, those are low-powered training bolts that are meant to not deal significant damage. So the fact that they retrofitted their weapons and even their droids that they took in, they retrofitted them with low powered training bolts. Like, I think that's a really neat detail.
Right. Instead of, instead of them just
I
like firing lethal rounds.
Yeah, right. Like if it was all blue and red bolts, then it's like okay, this is a problem because like I would have seen this as a problem. But the fact that in Clone Cadets they're orange, I didn't even pay too much attention. I was like, okay, it's a different color, so clearly this is a training one.
Yeah. I mean, unless we're talking about the training in Republic Commandos, in which case they do use lethal rounds, and that's why people die.
Mm-hmm.
But we're
okay,
not talking about
so they're setting up
I'd like
explosives.
to see if
Oh yeah,
sorry, no, no,
explosion.
no, no. I'm staying on this tangent.
Okay, okay, okay.
I'd
Tangent
like
I'm just
to
time.
trying
I'd
to
like
help.
to
I'm just trying to help.
rewatch I'd like to rewatch A New Hope and see if when Luke trains with that one thing, if it's orange bolts.
It's red.
It's
I
red.
remember it's red.
Okay.
Red.
And
Huh. I'd like to see.
I'm pretty sure this
Imagine.
is not a Lucas creation. I'm pretty sure this whole idea of the gas is after the first one
Well, that would be a really awesome change if they added that. Like, now
because
I know George Lucas. He liked making newer versions to try and add like changes that match the continuity better. Imagine if like we got a 40 no, because we're past the 40th, like a 50 or 60th anniversary of A New Hope, where they re-released a new version that's like got these changes in it. that matches continuity better, I think that'd be really cool.
That would be really sick.
I feel like that everybody in that movie shoots a red laser except for the TIE fighters and the
Okay.
or the TIE fighters because that was probably the easiest thing they could get to
Yeah.
show up in 1977.
And I think that's fine. That works.
That is fine.
I
That
think
is
it's
completely
really
and utterly
neat
fine.
that
I respect that movie.
apparently, yeah, I just think it's really neat that apparently there is a canon explanation. And I guess the reason why I wanted to point out the fact that the Resistance uses the blue bolts is because, like, it seems like I want to say that a higher up got in the way because that's a better explanation than everyone knew about it, but they chose to not follow the continuity for the sake of making the story
Color coordination.
slightly, very, very slightly more cohesive for people. Because I never had a problem with it in A New Hope.
Right.
But yeah. Moving on, because that was a big
Moving
tangent.
on.
That was a long
Heavy,
tangent.
yeah. Yeah, he grabs a chain gun, and he's just like, haha, I got the big gun. And Cody's like, a big gun doesn't make a big man.
Oh, why would you do
It's
that
like,
to my boy?
haha, you
And
hurt
hey,
him.
Daniel, does he have a zine whatever it is rotary cannon?
It sure does have a Z6 rotary cannon.
Whoa!
We can now tell all of our rookies apart.
Yes, you can. But yeah, the droids, they show up, and Heavy, he starts blasting the crap out of them. I like how as they're showing up, like the guy behind the main one, he tilts his head. He's like, "Huh? Can I see?" It's just I've been kind of endearing. And then yeah,
Open up.
he's like,
Didn't
"Didn't
say
say please,"
please.
and he just destroys them. They throw some grenades, and it's like, "Oh no, they're dying!" And then they close the door again.
And then they close the door again.
Yep. So I guess that was just to destroy as many as they could, and then seal themselves in so that it'd be like a quick sneak surprise attack, and then defend for as long as they can. But they're trying to hold out.
Right.
But then we get a quick shot, a quick scene of Obi-Wan with Yularen, and another quick scene to go with Grievous, and then we just jump right back in. And I I think I know why those scenes exist because they don't add anything. Because the one with Obi-Wan is like, huh, well, the signal, it's still coming even though I can't hear anything from Cody or Rex. So we're until the signal stops, we're gonna pretend as if there's nothing wrong. And for Grievous, it's just like, we've got to destroy the base so that we can get to Camino. And I'm pretty sure that the only reason those scenes are here are for people who missed the first half of the episode when tuning in on Saturday morning.
You know what? Yeah, probably.
Right? Like so that you can
Probably.
you can watch the second
Hey,
half and still
kiddies.
understand the stakes.
Let's say the same thing over again so you make sure you got it.
I mean, let's be fair, I remember the second half of the episode far more than the first half, right? Going into this, I was like, all right, I remember one of the clones sacrifices himself. I remember that's about it. But yeah, like I think that's why. It's just because I tuned in later sometimes.
hmm I remember watching this episode. It wasn't its first run; it was a rerun of this episode. But it was a good. I love this episode.
Yeah, I like it. But yeah, they fall back to the operating center. Well, Heavy and Cody, they lay down cover fire while I believe that's Fives runs back. And they're just like, "Oh crap, we gotta get the bombs." And there's three gonk droids that have all of the Tabana liquid in it. And they're just like, "Oh
Mega
no,
bomb.
the detonator, it's not working." So Heavy is just like, "Look, I'll stay behind while you guys get going. I'll fix the detonator and I'll be right behind you." And it's like,
Right behind
"Ooh,
you. Very famous last words.
uh-huh." And for some reason I didn't get in this shot, it shines green here, and I guess I took the screenshot too early because it's supposed to shine red there, but it's the detonator, it's not working very well. It's not working, so he's got to improvise. And it's like, "Oh no, he closes the vent and he just starts buying time by killing as many droids as he can. And as this happens, the clones they get to safety and they're just like, "All right, Heavy, hit the Heavy. Where are you?"
Heavy? Where'd Heavy go?
Yeah.
Abby. Oh,
hmm
And now we're
brother.
starting to get sad.
Yeah, and Cody's just like, "We're going in after him," and Heavy's just like, "No, I know what I have to do." And
And they keep
he's
yelling at him, "No, Heavy, don't
yeah,
go."
he's ready to die for the cause, and he gets blasted in the back. Now, I was going to say that there's some plot armor, which there is, but the fact that Heavy dies is like, okay. I mean, it doesn't change anything. And they could
Whoa,
have just
spoilers!
look, he's getting I have the picture of him
He got
shot in
hit.
the
He
back
got hit a
up,
few
so it's like
times.
he's gonna die anyways. Yeah, so
Uh,
it's like I'm fine with it. He got shot, I think it was 3 times in the back. Do I
yeah.
have a shot of it? I'm trying to see. Yes, I do. So, yeah, he gets shot 3 times in the back, once in the shoulder, I think. So he's shot quite a few times. It's just like, yeah, there's a moment where he's got his chain gun while like multiple droids are firing at him, and he only gets hit like 4 times. So it's like, that's fine because he dies. We can move on. Um, but yeah, the a droid is like, "Do we take prisoners?" And he's just like, "I don't."
And then final words.
And another thing about that scene, I kind of skipped past it, but one thing that I find really cool is the music is playing as this happens, or as, Heavy's defending himself. And then when he gets shot and he falls to the ground, the music cuts out and is instead replaced with Heavy's heartbeat.
Mmm.
And yeah, that was specifically pointed out as a detail that the writers wanted to keep because they wanted to really push that tension, and it's like, that's cool. I liked it. I didn't notice it until they pointed it out, like a lot of their details, but yeah, it's nice how those details that go into storytelling that when things are going right, you don't even notice. When things are
Mm-hmm.
going wrong, you notice very clearly. Like when the animation is off, you're just like, oh, that's ugly. When the music is out of line with the episode, it's like, oh, why is that there? Right? But
Mm-hmm.
when it's all going right, it's you really got to pay attention to notice it.
Yeah. I will say, like we discussed, what was that on was that Sunday or I don't remember when, but Heavy, you know, the droids, question whether they should commit a war crime. Heavy admits that he would indeed commit a war crime and then blows himself up,
Mm-hmm.
making Heavy my favorite hypothetical war criminal.
You know what makes sense? But
You
yeah, the
know,
base it explodes.
kablam.
Kablam.
And
And
then the all signal,
yeah,
the
the
all
signal
clear
stops,
signal
and they're
goes
just
out.
like, "Hey, wait a minute, let's get there," and they just show up.
Like they just show up so
They do it
fast. It's like
so
how?
quickly.
There,
You
Yeah,
would
there.
think they'd just be deployed and looking for Grievous, but nope.
Well,
yeah.
I
It
mean,
literally they show
to
up,
be
and then
fair,
seconds later the fleet retreats, and it's like,
I mean,
"Oh, all right, that was quick."
to be fair, that is like the place defending Camino. You'd think you'd have people on standby to,
At
Mm-hmm.
Camino, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
to get over there real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like Shock T could just go, man. She's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But yeah, the last scene of the episode, we've got Fives and Echo, who are the only remaining members of Domino Squad now. Uh, they are on the Venator ship, and Anakin and Obi-Wan, they give them medals and thank them for their service. And to say thanks for what they've done, they are promoted to the 501st unit.
Mm-hmm.
Is this our first in canon reference to the 501st? At least
I think
chronologically.
I think
I
that's
think
the first
so.
time someone has said the 501st. Yeah.
So, does someone want to explain what the 501st is?
Yeah, I know people who dress up for that at conventions. I'm kidding.
I can
Well, I mean that is a in you like a real world thing where
That is a
that's like
real
the
world
name of
thing.
the official cosplayers for Star Wars.
Yeah,
that
like
That's
the
really
five
official
cool.
organization of cosplayers.
yeah,
Yes.
they're
Yeah.
called the 501st. Shall I say?
Sure.
Go ahead, Daniel.
All right. So the clone army is divided up into a bunch of legions, battalions, a whole bunch of different divisions of their soldiers.
As
The
you'd know.
five the 501st Legion is our boys in blue. They are under the command of General Skywalker. One of their primary captains is Captain Rex. They are very prominent in this show. They pop up all the time. Um, in Revenge of the Sith, they turn into Vader's fist. They are the guys who stormed the Jedi Temple. They are they are like in a lot of Legends materials, it's like they are the clone troopers. They have main character syndrome because they because they are. It's like the blue space marines from Warhammer. They show up everywhere because they're the main characters, basically.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I knew that they were a unit and they're generally under Obi-Wan or Anakin, but I didn't know very much about them. So that's neat.
Yep. Obi-Wan is in direct command of the 212th Attack Battalion, which is Cody's guys.
Gotcha. Well, I guess we can talk about Domino Squad right now, because I mean,
They're
we've only
down to
got
2.
yeah.
The dominoes have fallen.
I will just
Oh,
say, like,
Bravo
man,
Squad was right.
you watch this in chronological order, and I finished this episode feeling so deflated. Like at least
Mhm.
the first time watching it this past week, because I was just like, I was so excited. I was like, oh man, we're following Domino Squad. Wait, Cut Up's just dead? Did they even mention Droid? Not Heavy's dead. I was like, I was actually
Yeah,
very
I knew Heavy
interested in
was
these
gonna
guys. Yeah,
die.
I remembered Heavy would die because he's the guy that picked up the chain gun. But like, yeah, the fact that I was like, okay, I know that Fives and Echo, they continue, but yeah, that made me feel so sad just because I was like, man, these guys were pretty interesting, and now
Mhm.
three of the five are gone. Um, yeah.
Indeed. Indeed, they are.
Well, I still don't really know a lot about what happens with Fives and Echo, so I guess I can speculate for you guys what I think is going to happen, and everyone who knows can shut up and just like laugh mischievously as I explain this. But
Or cry.
I would be very interested in seeing like how Fives and Echo move on from this because they just lost three very close brothers along with like this was their first like massive mission and they ultimately failed. Like Echo makes that clear. He's like, we failed. Even though we won the day. So I'd be interested in seeing how Fives or Echo go forward. Like there's a lot of ways that you could take it. One, they could be like very defeated. They could have very differing views on I guess the war and the people who serve in it, how they ought to like whether or not they should follow orders. Um, we could see like I don't know, we could see like punished fives, right, where he's just hardened by the fact that he's lost so
Punished.
many people and he's ready to kill like everything, right? That just there's so many different ways that they could take this. I'm interested to find out how they do because I don't really
Well,
know much.
I can
That's
tell you they probably won't do it in the first season because this is a kid
that's
show.
that is the thinking you are exhibiting is far too season 4 for this season 1 action.
So it's gonna be like a year until we actually see these guys again.
Ca-
Probably.
Character development? We'll get there.
All right, well,
Yeah. I don't
neat.
I will say I've been getting this feeling as we've started with these. Like I can definitely see the kid show aspects of this, and it's going to be interesting to see where that twist happens where we get to the stuff where in season 7 I was like, "Wait, this was a kid show. Why is everybody's like googling over this? Why, everybody's googly-eyed over it?" I thought this was a kid's show. What happened? Where was the switch? I'm interested to see where that switch happens.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I'm very interested in talking about some of the characters and the way that, like, yeah, that's really where I'm at right now. Is I still see this very much as a kids show, and I'm wondering when it's going to get more serious because people say it gets more serious, and I mean, Daniel, you and I were talking about it yesterday with, there was a guy there, and he said, wait until season three. And I'm just like, that's what people always say. I'm mainly interested in seeing does it actually get serious because so far this is probably the second best episode we've seen, and the first best one is definitely like I can say hands down is Clone Cadets, and that is a season
Yeah.
three episode. So it's like, hmm, does
Yeah,
it get better or I don't know.
I will always say to people who want to, who start watching Clone Wars, season 1 and season 2 are okay, right? They're all right. I definitely see the you definitely see that uptick when you get to season 3. Of course you see it in season 4. Heck, season 4 has my favorite arc of all time. Uh season 5 and 6 and 7. The 6 less so, but 5 and 7 speak for themselves as they're in my opinion some of the best seasons overall. Um but yeah, I think as we go through the show, these will just get better and better. We will hit some arcs that are going to be like, ooh, that wasn't that great. But overall, the seasons get far better than what we've seen so far.
I'm hoping that that's the case because I mean, I never want a show to be bad. I never want to watch a bad show. I want everything that I see to be good, and to be things that I really enjoy. And
Hmm.
currently, I don't know, if it wasn't for us doing this podcast, I'd probably just be like, okay, this is a lot worse than I remember. Um, I guess there's some neat stuff to it. It's got a bit of a charm to it, but for the most part, this is not Star Wars. Maybe not Star Wars, but it's not the kind of Star Wars that I want to see. So hopefully it gets better. I mean, yeah, I liked Rookies and I definitely liked Clone Cadets. But like the Malevolence arc, I didn't have to see that, right? The Christophsis arc definitely wasn't a fan of. The
The
Ryloth arc, it's
movie.
like, well, not the Ryloth arc, the other Ryloth arc. Yeah, the movie, I hated the movie. Um, but yeah, I'm interested in seeing if it gets better. I hope it gets better. I guess we'll just find out. We'll find out as we go.
Yeah, I thought Rookies was pretty good. Clone Cadets so far has been my favorite. I thought Malevolence Arc was just okay. I had a lot of nostalgia for that one because I used to. That was the one I watched the most when I was little.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, everything else has been kind of just either zoinks or meh. But yeah, it is what it is. So I'm interested. Like I said, I'm interested to see where this uptick that everybody talks about happens.
I I'm gonna I will say the end of season 1 is pretty good. There are one of my favorite arcs is in there. End of season 2 is also real. I'm not gonna say really good, pretty good as well. I'm gonna reserve my really goods for season 3 onwards. Um, but I think the reason why it's is because in seasons 1 and 2 they were still kind of focused on, hey, this is a kids show, and we're focused on a lot of what we've seen, like treating it like it was a kids show, like that showed up on Saturday morning cartoons, and they hadn't quite found their footing yet. They hadn't quite realized that their audience wasn't just kids who wanted cool Star Wars. It certainly was, but that wasn't
Mm-hmm.
their only audience. Because there was, kids like me back then who I was like what, 4, 5, 6 watching Clone Wars for the first time. But then
There
there's also
were
me. now watching Clone Wars.
There
for
are
the
Star
eight-
Wars fans who watch it.
Yes, it's not just kids, it's Star Wars fans. And so I think they noticed that at the end of season 2, and they dug into it in like the end of season 3 going on through season 5. Season 6 was they definitely was still there in season 6, although I will say it's a little weaker, and then season 7 is just beautiful. But anyways,
Well, that will be
Interesting.
very interesting as we get, through this.
other
We
than
get
one,
through the trenches in the muck. We gotta get to the promised land.
Mhm.
indeed.
But yes, thank you all for joining me. Thank you,
Oh yeah.
audience for watching. If you made it, give yourself a pat on the back.
Give yourself a
And
clone point.
one
I
clone
wasn't
point
gonna
for
get that
making it
far,
through
but I
this.
guess one clone point would be
You're
enough.
overruled. We both said it.
All right, there
Yeah.
you go. One clone point to the masses.
And now everyone who has watched this episode so far should have at least one clone point, which
That's right.
Possibly.
that's good.
I don't know. If you skipped to the end, give yourself minus one clone point. In fact,
Yeah.
minus 2.
Yeah.
You're in the negatives if you skipped to the end.
Yeah,
Because
get
that's just
out of
not cool.
here, you Schmeckledorf.
But yes, next we have the R3S6 arc. So
More
that's
Grievous.
only the 2 episodes. That'll be interesting. I guess we will talk about it when we get to that one.
Is there explosions happening or
is there?
There's
I don't
always
know.
explosions happening.
Always.
In this episode where we talked about liquid Tabana gas,
Mm-hmm.
and we have our hypothetical